Hey, welcome back to another episode. Today, I want to talk to you about dreams and goals. Um, we are, as a company, corporate wide team this month, reading the book by Bruce Wilkerson, Dream Giver. So, if you've never read that, you can find it like on Amazon Audible. That's like a shameless plug, I guess. It's a freebie. Um, I love that book, and I actually love all the books that he has. Great author, and um, part of the dream bigger, the dream giver is that they're talking about like, are you just staying stagnant, or are you like doing something to move forward toward that dream and goal? Do you even have a plan, or even have a desire, a burning desire, a dream, a wish, a hope? Do you have a vision of like what you would like your life to be like compared to what it is now? Do you have something that you've always like aspired to do or dreamt to do, but you were just too afraid, or it wasn't the right circumstances, or you just didn't have enough money, or like just things did not work out to make it happen, or you felt like you weren't good enough or worthy enough, or you didn't have what it took, or you have to get some crazy degree, or go do like X amount of years of something before you can accomplish this one thing you would just love, love, love to do. Well, I'm actually working on that every single day when I work with my life coach. We're actually working on, you know, our dreams and our goals and our burning desires. Like, it can't just be a wish and a hope. I used to wish and hope so much, and you have to realize that with a wish and a hope, that's just a thought. Like, you're just thinking about it, and it stays in that thought process. It never goes into it just stays in your conscious mind. Like, it just stays in your brain, and every now and then it'll pop up and you're like, yeah, that would be awesome. But you never like put anything toward that, like nothing, no other effort. Like, there's no genuine actions. There's no plan. There's no idea of like the idea of you thinking that you could actually accomplish it. And so, like, for me, I struggled with this for years, and the reason was because of my self-worth. And so, like, I'm in the final stages of writing my life story. And I'm so glad I chose to do this, because I struggle with identifying those areas of my life where I still need to improve. I think we all go through that. Like, it's a normal thing, it's not anything different, especially when you've gone through some sort of trauma or addiction, or just not a healthy lifestyle, right? And it could be healthier, I would say. um we're always in constant motion. I always call it, like, we're an ocean of motion, because we're always in constant motion. Everything is constantly moving. But I stayed stagnant while the world just kept spinning for decades. And I did a lot of complaining, and I did a lot of negative self-talk. I did a lot of beating myself up and being my own worst critic. I don't know if you can relate to that, but that was totally me for decades. And the reason why I look back now, it's because I was programmed to do that. The things in my life that happened from birth to seven really just affected and impacted my dreams, my desires, and what I thought I was capable of. And how we talk to our children, how other people talk to our children, who we expose them to, what we expose them to, it truly does matter. It truly does matter. It makes a difference. It's how you talk to them is how they're going to talk to themselves. It's how their inner child is going to talk to themselves. And I could have done better as a mother, with my older children. And we've had this conversation with them, and they know exactly how I feel. I am so grateful for those kids, because we learn together. We're learning together still today. And it's one of those moments where it's a learning lesson, and it's a teaching moment and a learning moment. But you have to remember that most of the time when we're learning something new and we've gone through the trauma and we're our own worst critics and we have a damaged self-image, right? How we feel about ourselves, what we think we're worthy of, and what we think that we're capable of, and who we think we can become. Like that's part of our self-image and who we believe ourselves to be now, right? Um, when that's damage, we tend to go to the left before going down a straight, narrow path. Like we'll go left, we'll go right, we'll duck and dodge, we'll try to avoid accountability, try to avoid the problem because confrontation was like a big thing for me. I was either too confrontational or not confrontational enough. And the reality was it hindered a lot of areas of my life. It impacted a lot of areas of my life. A lot of choices and decisions that I made were based upon other people and how they would feel and their opinions. I didn't focus on my feelings because people told me that I was too emotional. People told me that I was an emotional creature, that I had way too many emotions, that I expressed myself too much. They told me I needed to tone it down. And I truly believed them. They told me that I shared too much of my story, that I shared too many things about my story. But I'm really grateful that I chose to be brave enough to do it anyways. Here's why. I truly believe that the more I talked about it, the more I healed. Because what happened, which I'm truly grateful for, what happened was by me talking about it, it led me to a path where I found someone who could be a mentor. And I found someone who could not just be a mentor, but be guidance that I needed to get to the next step, to get to the next level. What I mean by that is she taught me how to begin to focus on solutions. She taught me how and is teaching me how to really focus on what my thoughts and my emotions are dictating and to not express them, but acknowledge them. And then if they need to be expressed, express them, but acknowledge them for what they are, the good, the bad ones, the ones that I don't like, even the anger, the frustration, the doubt, the fears. She taught me to address those and acknowledge them and ask questions. Ask myself questions like, why is that feeling here? Why am I feeling like I'm scared? What's making me afraid? And these were things that other people told me to ignore and to shut out and to dig down and bury them deep, like don't worry about those, just do it anyways. You're like a robot, just be a robot. Just act like a machine. Just get the work done, right? And then she's teaching me something completely different in my life that I've never experienced in my life, but it brings me so much gratitude. It brings me so much peace. It brings me so much joy and happiness to express myself and to love my emotions, all of them, and to really work on the root of my problems. Like my inner child had issues. And that might sound so crazy to some of you, and you're like, I don't even know what you're talking about. But everything that we experience from birth to 7 years is being dumped into our mind and our thoughts and our gut feelings, our intuition, our subconscious mind, our conscious mind. Like it's just being dumped into because it's from our environment, it's from our parents, it's from our family and friends, it's from people that they've allowed around, people who babysat us and watched us, caregivers, like whatever it was, whoever it was, TV shows, the news, like all kinds of things, right? We're just being dumped in and we had no control. If you look back and you feel and kind of remember, try to remember when you were about 7, 8, or 9, somewhere between like 7 and 9 years old, somewhere in there, you said no more. You either became a really big people pleaser and you had to please a lot of people and you felt like you always had to please people. Or you were somebody who were like, no, I don't think I want to do that. And you problem solved and you realized that you had a choice. Like you truly had a choice and a voice. You could say no if you wanted to. And some of us didn't get that option, right? We just, in our environment, it didn't allow, we felt like we didn't have that choice, but we still did. Okay, regardless, by the time you hit about 7 years old, I look back and from birth to seven, from 3 years old until 7 years old, I was being molested. During that time period, I had three different abusers. And the reason why it stopped wasn't because a parent found out or someone else caught them assaulting me. The reason why it stopped is because I knew it wasn't okay at 7 years old. And I decided that I no longer wanted to be that victim. And so I would do things and I would take action and I'd make different choices because I felt like I could. And I would not get myself in situations that put me in that person's path. And I look back, and that was because I didn't have any control before that. It was beyond my control before that, just developmentally wise, right? And then I finally hit an age by about 8 years old where I had said, enough. I am done with this, like enough. And I spent that whole next year and a half, year and 5 months, finding maneuvers and ways to not be around that person, the last abuser that was in my path. And that was because I made those decisions. I stayed inside my house more. I didn't play with them. I paid attention to like where they were at, and like I felt like I was walking on eggshells as a little kid, but I still had a choice. And so I look back and I'm just like, I can acknowledge that now. Like, I cannot fault myself and have shame and guilt and all of this negative emotions and all of this hurtfulness and this pain and suffering that I've been carrying, baggage, right? For decades, because those things were beyond my control. As soon as it became in my control, I took action and did something about it. Did I tell somebody? No, I was still really scared. I buried that crap so deep, and I think subconsciously my mind did too, my body did, because I pretty much felt like I blacked it out, and I never really had it come up anymore until I was about 19 years old. And so um for about 12 years I buried it, and I became an athlete, and I became a really good athlete. Like I got damn good at it because I loved it. It made me feel good. And I got into theater and I got into so many sports. And I made so many mistakes still because those things that had happened created habits. And I didn't realize how bad some of those habits were because I was still very young. In the good things were contrast. In with the good, with all those wonderful things I just talked about, I was also battling addictions. At a very young age, I was battling addictions. And I did my best to stay sober when I really felt good. I was sober. When I really, really, really felt at my best, like I was sober. And when I was a really good athlete, when I was really on my A game, I was feeling my best, if that makes sense. And so I look back, and that's how my life, it's been a pattern of that. Just being transparent, it's been a pattern of that. In healthier relationships, I picked really I had these dreams and these desires and these goals, but I was so ignorant in a lot of areas still and naive, right? Because that's just part of growth. And we fault ourselves for those things. But imagine if I had not gone through those experiences, I wouldn't be the person I am today. That doesn't mean that because I went through those crazy life experiences and because life was not easy in a lot of areas, because I didn't make it easy, other people around me, because I attracted the uneasiness, right? We we have to realize that like our energy matters. Our thoughts and our feelings make such a huge difference in every area of our life. As soon as I flipped the switch and decided life was going to be wonderful, as soon as I flipped the switch and decided life was going to be gorgeous and beautiful and just so incredible and such a blessing, and I'm so grateful for every single thing, life changed. Everything started changing around me. Everything is changing around me. And it's good change. Some of it has been so wild and up and down and just so much up and down these last few weeks of just the good and the not so good, but it's good because I know it's good because these changes are preparing me for what's coming and what's next, which is so exciting. And I know what's coming in next because I've prayed for it. I know what God's blessings are coming, and so, like, just having that faith and knowing that the dreams and desires that I have talked to him about are coming alive. They are literally coming alive. And that's what you get to choose. And I think that's what people get so caught up in what's going wrong and what the problem is. And I see it and I hear it all the time, complaining about ex-spouses or another parent, complaining about electricity or how being so high, complaining about bills, complaining about how expensive groceries are or everything is, how inflation has changed the world and blah 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 blah, complaining about the elections that were going on, complaining about other people, complaining about this and that, and really just negative, just really getting so caught up in the things that just really aren't important, let's be honest, things that aren't going to create what you want. Something I've learned is that I used to complain and used to be like always like complaining and irritated and annoyed about where I was at in life. If you don't know, I was injured in an auto accident in 2007, a head-on collision with black ice, and 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 an embankment, and then also assaulted twice in my second marriage um in 2009. Okay, those things left me with lifelong things, right? But what it mostly left me with was a lot of misunderstanding and a lot of frustration and a lot of bitterness. Like, I'm just not gonna lie. um I was relieved to get out. I was relieved to be alive. I was relieved my kids got out and they were alive. What I had found out after we got out, I was relieved I found it out then instead of during being in the situation still. Um, I truly believe it was all God that got us where we are today. Um, but I had a lot of frustration for a really long time with other people or just situations or just in life. I would say life in general, just myself, I think more than anything, because I put up with it for so long. There's a lot of shame and guilt put behind that. Okay. And what I learned was that was holding me back. All of that poison that I was trying to be so upset with that person or those situations was just poisoning me, not them. And I truly, truly do believe that this makes a difference in your life. Because as soon as I could forgive and let those things go, and I truly had to deep down work on just unconditional love for myself and for those other situations and for the people, right? And I would hold on to things and then they'd resurface and I would think about them and I'd rehearse like the frustration that it caused me and how pissed off I was about it and how would I wish I would have said this or wish I would, instead of like coming up with a good solution for it instead of really looking at how could I have made this better, right? What would this have looked like if I would have flipped the script? And honestly, we would have just parted ways and divorced, and it would have just been that way. But then I look back and my children would not be safe. So it is what it is. At the end of the day, it happened how it happened. I didn't have the knowledge that I have today. That is something I will never take for granted, is the knowledge I have today, because the knowledge I have today, I choose to use it. Instead of just having the knowledge, I choose to apply the knowledge. And that was a complete game changer, because dreams can be a wish and a hope all day long. But when they become the goal and the dream and the burning desire, that is when you make the decision that you're all in and you're committed no matter what. That you are going to work on your thoughts, that you are going to work on the things that you're saying to yourself. Part of why I am writing my book, um, it was a really big desire to share my story. And when I share my testimony with people, I get told all the time how I should write my story. Um, it took me 4 years to really make that decision, and that's a really long time. The reason why it took so long, I'm just going to be transparent. I truly believe it was because it wasn't the right timing when the intuitive thought came in 2020 that I should write my book. Um, I had said it to a few people out loud, and they mocked me like, oh, great, a sob story. Like, she's going to write a sob story. But because my story was so intense, it made people cry, right? But what I truly learned in that situation was that I have a testimony that can impact someone's life, one person's life. And that testimony was put on my heart by God. And if it were not by Him, then I wouldn't feel so called to share it. And it just feels so easy, but I have been working on my self-image and rewiring myself and changing and learning and unlearning and lots of relearning of things since my childhood. And I'm 45. And anybody can do this. I'm not anybody special. I just chose to do this. And what I love is that I'm a different person today because of it. Like, I feel this shift in my being and like who I truly deep down am. And it's not all the labels that society puts on me. It's like who I was created to become when I was developed in my mom's womb. And I feel that intense like energy of just so much unconditional love for everything and everyone. And the joy, I have never felt so much joy in my day-to-day life naturally in any time of my life other than these last couple of months. And I would say these last few weeks, you know what I mean? Like, I can't stop smiling. I'm in pain. I'm dealing with spinal cord issues in my physical being, right? But I also know it's all going to be okay. Like, I know I'm taking the steps I need. I'm doing all the things, and it's going to be okay. Everything's going to be incredible. And I'm just so grateful for it. And and to just know, and to have faith in knowing. And that was something that I've always had. And when I look back at my life story, through every obstacle, through every objective, through every fear, through every doubt, through every exciting and happy moment, through every single experience, from the time I was little and I could remember all the way until now, I've always had faith. And that was part of what kept my dreams alive. In second grade, I had this dream, and I was going through the most molestation periods of my life during this time. Like, I was being assaulted daily by my abuser, sometimes multiple times a day. And I was told that my family would be harmed if I did not, if I did not stay silent. And I believed him. And so, like, I had this deep down dark, just, it wasn't anger, it was just shame. I had so much shame and I had so much fear, and I just felt so isolated as a little kid, a little second grade kid. And I remember going to my second grade teacher because I had a dream, because I used to have these dreams, and I had these dreams that Jesus would come and just save me. And one night I had this dream, and I was told by Holy Spirit, and I felt it. And I went to school the next day and I said, Teacher, I had a dream last night. And she said, Oh, yeah, do you remember it? And I said, I do. And I am so excited. And she could feel the excitement and the joy and I today can feel that. When I think back in that moment, I feel that little girl just so, so excited and full of joy and just so much happiness. Like, it's the one thing that, like, I remember about that dream. And she said, Well, what was it? And I said, I am going to be a mom with 4 kids with a man named Shawn, Shawn. And she said, That is so awesome. And the little boy next to me was Sean, same spelling, and said, Is that me? Are you talking about me? And I said, Oh, gross. No, little boys have cooties. And I will never forget that story. And the reason why is because after all the trauma, after all this getting out of the cycle of abuse, I went to the doctors in 2010, and I had some new diagnosis for, medical diagnosis that were given after the assault and this and that. I noticed something was wrong with my body, like something was off, right? Well, I had a cancer scare, and I had to go and have my uterus, my vaginal wall scraped and treated for cancer cells. And I was told by that doctor that I couldn't have any more children. And I believed him. I believed him because I had forgotten about that dream. I was a year into my divorce, still trying to divorce my spouse because he was not making it easy. And I truly believe that doctor. I said, Well, I'm a mom with 3 kids, and I'm going through divorce, so that is okay with me, is what I said. I didn't know if I wanted more children, to be honest with you. And I was at a point in my life where if it happened, it happened. If it didn't, it didn't, because I was going through a lot of tough shit. And I realized that I'd been in that cycle because I started going to counseling and therapy and stuff with the kids. And it starts opening your eyes to things, and so I completely forgot all about it. And then after just so much craziness and so much stuff going on, like, when they talk about the contrast or the crazy stuff coming before the good stuff comes, they're not lying, right? Like, they're not lying, because I had several different things that occurred, and I'm not going to go into them because that's just a whole nother podcast. But I have, it's like a ripple effect. Every single month there was something, and this went on for 5 months. Sorry, 4 months: February, March, April, and May. Something, 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 and then June. Okay. The beginning of June. Okay. After all of that happened, there was this shift, and it was in me. I started sobering up. Um, I told you February, March, April, May, June. And I look and and then there's like all these things happening, right? All these things that were just boom, 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 boom. And they were not the greatest things. I'm just going to be transparent. It was very overwhelming. And then along came the answer to that dream. Like that dream manifested. Um, I bumped into Sean, SHAWN, at a mutual friend's house in June. Bumped into him again at the same friend's house in July. And all those crazy things that had been going on stopped. Okay. And then August, we started hanging out as friends at the park with a bunch of kids so that Logan would have friends. My son Logan would have friends. He wanted friends. And he had nieces and nephews, and he was watching them. And he had the owners of one of the Japanese restaurants in town, and he watched their kids and took them swimming. And so we were just at the park having fun, enjoying life, feeling so good, right? Life was just so much better after all of that craziness. And then we started dating in September. And then baby number 4 came in October. We were pregnant. And so like you just don't know how things are going to work out. If you would have asked me in 2010 or even 11, when that doctor told me I could not have children, I believed him. What changed in my belief was there was just so much happiness and joy between us. There was just so much love and light and just so much good stuff happening. And he had said, I've always asked every girl I've ever dated, right after we started dating, he said, I've always asked every girl I've ever dated if they like this name. And I said, oh my gosh, I love that name, but unfortunately, I can't have babies. If I could, I'd have your baby. Joking around, right? The universe doesn't the universe says what you want. And he said, you're the first girl. He said, I knew you were the one because you were willing to have like that name for our child. He said he was told 5 years before that at his checkup that he could not have children. And we both joked that we would have each other's babies, right? And then a few weeks later, like 4 or 5 weeks later, he was getting ready to go out of town with his family for camping. And he said, you should get a pregnancy test. And I said, what? Bite your tongue. I can't have babies. And he said, but you're glowing. You should probably take a test. And I took one just because I thought it would be funny. Like, haha, see, I told you. And 2 of them came back positive. And so pay attention to those dreams and those little cues that are popping up. At some point, they're going to come to fruition. At some point, it's going to align. Um, it's crazy because mine took literally, gosh, over 20 years. But I look back and every single place that I ever went to around this location, he was at the same location. I was going in one door and he was going out the other. I was coming in one and he was leaving, or I was leaving and he was coming in. We literally missed each other by minutes. We realized that like there were so many moments that we could have bumped into each other, or that we would have, things would have came and we would have met each other, but it wasn't the right moment. The moment we met each other was the perfect timing, God's perfect timing. And it was a dream that was placed in my heart, and I loved the thought of it, and then I let it go. And I think that's what we focus on things and we hold on to them, we hold on to them. It's okay to think about them and feel good about it and be like, oh, that would be so amazing. And then let it go. Let it go out into the universe. Let God have it. Give it to him. And you just focus on being your best and following those dreams and those feelings of just goodness. When something feels good, that's a good sign. That's a really good sign. And you got to realize that you're going to have fear. You're going to have fear. It's new, it's unknown, but you won't know what the next step is going to lead to if you don't take the first step. And so I hope this has helped y'all. I could talk about this all freaking day long. It is such a great topic, but I'm going to stop here. And I just hope that you go out and be a dream giver, be somebody who just, you know what you want. It's crystal clear. If you need help setting goals, reach out. I would love to help you. And just know that you are already equipped. Everything you need is inside you. So go out and just be you. Make it a great day.